What then does it mean to live and inhabit the slag heap? It is undoubtedly recognizing oneself as the subject of the ambient catastrophe. We arrived to Redange first by air, viewing from above the landscape in satellite, tracing with a finger the invisible line demarcating the territories of Luxembourg and of France. Particular to this, the farthest flung west of Luxembourg, exists the tri-border, where the realities of three nations intersect, that additionally of Belgium. Holding it and collecting it in its multifarious forms, through the territory became our guide. We tread upon the moon landscape, built on the toil of many, including the pores which still hold, receive, and build upon the scars of the age of steel. Slipping upon asteroid land, we pick up the small parcel of stories, which appears humble, dumb. The stone travels with us, it guides us through its presence. We were brought here by its presence, the gap it bore in the vegetation, its aerial description, a latent clue to its existence. Once an open mine, once a dumping site. Returning to test the border, we alighted the bus, touching foot to ground on two of the oldest residential streets. At the elbow of their crossing is a wooded area we identified in a second search on the aerial map. It is an area that straddles the border on the hillside above the previous walk. From above it appears as a clearing of white amongst the green. Alongside the lightly worn trails were strange rock formations, shrine-shaped. Realizing that this rock too lay under our feet, on inspection it was pockmarked, gouged, reddish, and had an otherworldly look. This was slag. Step by step, carefully placing each foot above the other as we made our way up the ladder. Above we saw the land inverted, watching for prey, yet watching instead the silent stones, lane piles. These otherworldly human magmas, born of the earth and transformed by hand and metal from red in pigment to red with heat, flowing upon the ground, tipped from great vats. It lies upon the ground now, as it did under. Axe in the evening. In front of him, between the steep hillock of Montseleuve, which stood guard towards the north, and the giant ridge of Titemont, where, in time immemorial, the Roman roads, those of Neustria and Austria, the converters of diffidange, threw showers of sparks tangled with tawny broth towards the sky. Further away, and all around, the wooded hills, which closed in the horizon on the side of Belgium and France, the factories of Atout, Redange, Mont-Saint-Martin, Audon-la-Tiche, Dudelange, Thionville. Others again, with their plumes of smoke, their bouquets of flames, and their thousands of multicoloured and flashing lights, set the horizon ablaze. There along the slag heap, pushing its obstinate bow into the plains of labour, purpurine snakes meandered, dripping in flaming avalanches, rolling palms, which leaped in the dotted shadows of their embankments. Here and there, waves of furnace, in the middle of which emerged chimney stacks stained with soot and crowned with golden flames, pylons carrying black cables, along which skips crowded with ore slid, the gaping maws of the blast furnaces. In the silence of the autumn night, the wind tunnels panted like battering rams. Paul Verneau went for a walk on Mont Guibert, of an impregnable fortress. Their equal rhythm night and day, the purring of the engines activating this gigantic mechanism, creating light and driving force, the panting of the locomotives and the shrill whistle, the screeching of the brakes and the clatter of the wagons hurtling down the mines, All this hectic life controlled by fire and electricity formed a magical spectacle which called the collaboration of all the senses, imagination and reason. Thus Cressier is a piece of the guts of the city suspended in the sky. Here it stands, a monument, prosperity of the local industry, a growing pile erected upon the rhythms of workers' efforts, a great sand-glass that indexed all matter of transformed, and a red mountain, nourished by the sweat and the blood of the working class, and the strikers who fought for better working conditions. Vantage point upon the slag castle, we spy the machinations of slag played out at the border. Liquid slag pours out of the ground into tanks, displacing, migrating into France. How strange this place is. All that come here are visitors, tourists of extraction, fueling up and filling up with cigarettes and bottles. How the border, an invisible line, renders the street a contemporary mine. We find that which we have seen from space. The familiar plans of buildings take on 3 dimensions. Along traffic streets we trace the lines of production until the town streets peter out into highways, not for ambulists. Walking directly to the symbolic tri-border point led us to a strange line of end-to-end petrol stations. Petrol, as a fixed price throughout Luxembourg, is always cheaper than its neighbours. Inadvertently wandering through the forecourts as the only route through, we came across one sign that read, "British pounds accepted here." We wondered who comes here with pounds. I guess us, 20p in my purse. Reaching the end of this bizarre stretch, serving only those who come by car, by lorry, to tank up and fuel up with tobacco, alcohol, and all else. A sign which, with stars around, reads France. This is Long-la-Ville. Now there are no petrol stations, only a collection of houses, 2 large football pitches, a car wash, a fast food cafe. Behind this cafe, we follow the route etched on the map as Avenue du Luxembourg. It's lined with birches and is littered with beer cans, appearing to be a toilet spot for commuters. After finally hitting a live railway track, we're forced to turn back, to wait again dubious bus stop sandwiched along the petrol mile. Our impact assessment of the site confronts a part of a much larger network of footprints the steel industry has imposed upon the soil. We look from the SLR plant beyond to the steel works of Atout, Rodange, Pétange, which outscale the houses and belie a hierarchy of importance. Once part of the Arbed Empire, these sites are now operational as nodes instead of the ArcelorMittal Empire, which is in itself a merger of Arbed, Australia and French Usinor, later taken over by Indian magnate-owned Mittal Steel. ArcelorMittal remains an owner of much of the land in Luxembourg, the government reluctant to take on the risk when things go wrong. The implications of such ownership cast a shadow on the true nature of those that are big actors in Luxembourg. Wait and drink tea, writes Kozarublick in Der Kaisersäcke, on the 1st of March 1991, of the Société Lorraine de Récupération des Résidus Ferreux, SLR, on their response to the claims to set up a dust emissions monitoring network. The facility operates to crush and recover metal containing residues from the disused slag heap, Cressier de Chire, Where we stand, we are led to it by a deafening range of scraping, scratching noises which reverberate through the site, arriving at a point in which we nearly cross into the plant, a foot against the invisible border, tracing it and pushing at its boundaries. On all sides of the border, since their activities began in 1969, unbearable dust pollution has been a major source of regular protests. The 1990s point to the additional authorization of a prefecture, in which recovery of zinc has a real possibility of inadvertently producing highly toxic gases, namely arsenic, phosphorus, hydrogen cyanide and hydrogen sulfide, when in contact with rainwaters. The solution given by SLR: cover it with tarpaulin. Rublik writes, the SLR is now boasting about this and would like to silence all the critics. As with the proposed plan to cover the slag heap with 8.5 kilometers of fabric during the World Cup in Saint Etienne, there is a suggestion that this reveals the television star as a trash man, whose mission is to make us forget the industrial past of a city. At all scales, it seems, there is a practice of cover-up. Returning once again to the hand which holds the slag, we see it not as a dumb object, but one which is the very foundation on which Luxembourg was built.